right, now we're actually live. How are we doing, everybody? Welcome to episode 8 of Tire Talk. Sans the Darth Vader voice this week. I figured out that after the show started, I went back and listened to it and figured out the whole time it sounded like I was trying to steal the galaxy from Luke Skywalker. So we fixed that. We're back for another week, another episode. We made it through the Memorial Day weekend. I hope everybody else survived and stayed safe and celebrated in some sort of safe and healthy fashion, whether or not, however you do that. This week on episode 8, we are joined by Mr. Aaron Brown, owner and operator of the Garage Shop, founded in 2007 in Denver, North Carolina. Aaron has dedicated his life to building some of the most unique and fastest cars, trucks, and hot rods in existence. He's well known in the NASCAR and land speed communities as the builder and driver of the Uncatchable, Project 39, a 1939 Ford Rat Rod that currently holds 9 land speed records. Prior to founding the Garage Shop, Aaron spent 20 years in NASCAR as research and development fabricator for Ray Evernham and Dale Earnhardt, Inc. He has served as crew chief in the NASCAR K&N Gander Outdoors Truck Series and Xfinity Series. Aaron, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
So in addition to that, and why you are here, is you do a little thing called Expedition SEMA on that little beauty behind you. So I guess if you want to start with that, kind of talking about how that came to fruition, that little project.
Well, we took, I think it was 2016, we took Project 39 out to SEMA and, had a good show and stuff. And we were sitting there at one of those little cantinas out in the parking lot and seeing these guys push a Jeep by with white gloves on. And I looked at a buddy of mine. I said, hey, I think we can do better than that. And he's like, well, what do you think? And I said, well, I saw this trail. It's called the Trans-America Trail. It goes from North Carolina all the way to Oregon. We could drive off-road to SEMA, 5,800 miles. And they laughed at me. They didn't think it was funny. They thought they didn't like it. So I talked to my friend Jim Sweener from racingjunk.com, and he thought it was a good idea. So I had one guy that thought it was cool, and came back from SEMA, and we started working on a few things. And a guy I was working with, Alex Cummings, told him what the plan was, and this was in December. We got till March to get it going, because we'll have to build. We don't have a truck. I have a truck, but it wasn't a truck that I would drive. It was this truck. We had to rebuilt from frame up. So March rolls along, and Ed Whitty down at Mile Marker Winches, he talked to Alex. Well, they sent a winch up, and Alex said, yeah, we're good to go. I'm like, great, deal's funded, we're ready to go. He goes, well, I got you a winch. I'm like, dude, what about the other 50 grand? And we don't have a truck.
The winch is just going to pull the roller from tree to tree all the way to Oregon from North Carolina.
Right. So so I called a friend of mine, Ed Goff, and him and I had done a lot of traveling through the mountains and stuff out west. And he thought it was a great idea. And he came to North Carolina, and we tore our FJ apart and did a lot of work on it. Everything really. I mean, it needed everything. Put it all back together. And then he came back. We left for SEMA. We usually leave on our trips last week in September. It gives us a month to get there. Well, off road.
Yeah.
And so he showed up 3 days before we were going to leave, and he said, well, how's it drive? I said, well, I don't know. Let's get in it and go get some lunch. So, we test drove it to get lunch for about 5 miles, loaded it up, and we did the Trans-America Trail to SEMA. And then the second year, we did Drew Patey from Safety Clean. He approached us, and he was part of the Performance Plus Safety Clean group on the first year. And he said, hey, we want to do this. We want to put it in our booth next year. And then we decided about halfway through the year, we'd do the Oregon Trail. And that was one of my favorite trips. That was a little shorter. It's about 4,000 miles, off-road. But Ed found and mapped the original Oregon Trail. And we had the Trailblade Bosses on there for the first time.
37s.
Yeah, 37.
They just came out.
Talked to Joe, and we were looking for a new tire deal because I wasn't real happy with what we were on. And we're kind of an underdog company, and we like working with underdog people. And spoke with Joe, and Joe's like, this is kind of crazy. I like it. Let's do it. And we put those tires on there and did the entire Oregon Trail all the way to, all the way to SEMA. Did that deal. A beautiful trip. Just really humbling to see what those people went through. The Oregon Trail, Mormon Trail, the Bridger Trail, California Trail. Just what those people went through. I mean, it was minus 16 degrees one night when we camped. And so we kind of Googled up that valley we camped in. Well, here about 100 years, well, whatever, 150 years earlier, 23 Mormons died in that same valley. We found the monument on top in the middle of nowhere. That they got a late start on the trail and got stuck in the weather, kind of like we did, but we were a little more luckier than that, obviously. But so the trail bosses, they did an amazing job. Just a great tire. We liked them so much. Drew said, "Hey, let's do this again." But what are we going to do? I said, "Well, we've been east to west twice. Let's go from Canada to Mexico, then back up to SEMA." So we did. Ed mapped the Continental Divide Trail. We started up in west side of Glacier up in Montana and went all the way down to Antelope Wells, New Mexico, and then another 800 miles back up to Las Vegas to SEMA. And we liked the Atturo tires so much that we ran the exact same set the second year as we did the first year.
Wow. Yeah, so that's for anybody out there aspiring to get that tire sponsorship. That's the bar of wild and crazy. That's how you have to impress Joe. You want something that's that standard where Joe's like, yeah, that's pretty wild. I'll go with it. I'll hop in on that.
Well, no, at that time, I forget what magazine it was.
You were pretty new at that time, Joe, right? Around when that happened?
Yeah, I was just starting, man. I forget what magazine it was. I open it up and it's a picture of Aaron and Ed, like overlooking a cliff or something like that, and then the FJ's in the background, and I'm like, man, it's a sweet shot. And then they had the whole thing about the story and everything. I'm like, this would be really cool to be a part of, So I'm like, oh, I'll reach out to him, see where it goes. Not knowing, I'm like, man, this is like one of the coolest, funnest things. If you want to see something tested, like, yeah, Aaron's the guy to do it.
There was a lot of great people involved with that, with Fuzzy down at Gear FX Driveline, Fab Tech, Mile Marker Winches, and Cora and Eric from Aussie Lockers. I mean, we ran those Aussie Lockers the whole way. I mean, it was just a lot of really good people came together for that project, and we had one gear failure on the trail that was my fault. That was in first. That's where we had to pull the front diff out and put it in the rear to remove ourselves from the middle of nowhere, and ended up running 600 miles with no front diff in the dirt. So, but that was my fault. I did it. I broke it. So, but we got her fixed up and got her out of there.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta take the blame for it, and you gotta move on with that, and it is what it is. So, Aaron, what are your thoughts on SEMA this year? Do you think it's gonna happen? Do you think it's gonna? What do you think's gonna change?
We've had some discussions already because we got a pretty long history of bringing a lot of different vehicles to SEMA. Cars with stories, cars that done something, not show ponies and stuff like that. We either drive them there, or they're land speed cars, 250-mile-an-hour cars, or they have a history to them. And we're kind of sitting back watching it. I mean, I'm all about supporting SEMA and participating. That's my boat. And we'll just kind of have to see where the world takes us in the next few months to see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the boat everybody's in for the most part. I know for us at least too, we're kind of just gonna wait and see and let for the most part everybody else take the lead, so to speak. I guess I mean, at the end of the day, I think if SEMA had the decision, they would continue to do it. But I think it's going to be an outside force that tells them they can't when realistically that decision comes. So who knows if that happens, a month from now or a month before SEMA. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we're just kind of wait and see, and we're doing everything we need to do to prepare to to bring some cool stuff to SEMA, and if it happens, great, we'll be there to support it, and and the stipulations that they require if they have the show, and if not, well, there'll be another show.
Yeah, I think that's what people need to understand is that SEMA is such a big organization. They're going to be able to weather it. They're not their amount of cash on hand. They can go a year without having the show, and they'll be fine, and they'll come back, and it'll probably be better than it would have been if they have it, and they'll do it bigger and better. So it's a non-issue really.
And it kind of it gives us a break for the year. Not that I don't want to go, but for 3 years we spent 6-7 weeks, doing the off-road trips and back and forth with that. I mean, it was a lot of logistics and a lot of timing, and we're going to get back to doing some off-road trips. We got some things in the works we're looking at. It was a really successful program. It still is. We worked with Michael from Overland Bound and did some booth vehicle stuff for him last year, and we did some trips in West Virginia to Overland Expo East with him. So the program's still alive and well, and it's not shelved by any means. We just don't want to force it down people's throats. It was great for 3-4 years. Let's give it a little bit of a break and come out with something really epic.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's one of those things, like, if it's not naturally going to work out, sometimes it's better to just let things go, and sometimes it's going to work out better than it might have otherwise, instead of forcing something and making something happen.
We learned that, from a marketing standpoint, we kind of learned that with Project 39. As Expedition SEMA replaced Project 39, the land speed truck, that truck got shelved for 2 years. And we brought that truck back out last year, and then it was voted number one hot rod in the world by hotcars.com. And so it came right back to where it was. And it's still, there's even new people that came into the car scene that notice it now too. So it all works out. There's a time and a place for everything, and everything runs its course.
So do you kind of want to go into a little bit more about what inspired that Project 39 a little bit? Go into this backstory about that?
Well, we went out in 2007. We did a project for Dodge. In 2006, a guy named Russ Wicks went out and set a land speed record with a Ford. Well, that record was close to 30 years old because Bobby Isaac, he set that record originally in 1971. And Dodge had held that record. And I grew up kind of beside Bobby's sister. And he was the 1970 Grand National Champion, stock car driver, all that. And she told me, she said, if his records ever fall, go back out there and get him. That was what he was, most proud of. His sister told me that. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, around 2006-07, I saw this on this new thing called the internet that I didn't know anything about. So I called a couple friends at Dodge, and Ryan Isabel, he was a Dodge engineer, and we put together a deal and went to Bonneville, and Bobby went 216 and some change. Russ Wicks the year before in the Ford went 226. And then I had Russ, since he was the only guy really that knew how to do this. I'd never even been to Bonneville. We built a car in a month, and stock car, and put it all together, and went to the wind tunnel up at Dodge. And so I called Russ to drive the car, because who else are you going to call?
Yeah.
This has to be successful. And the very first full power pass we made was 244.9 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
So we did pretty good there, and set that record, brought it back for the family. And that was in a car it was a newer stock car, but it was a number 71 Dodge, just like Bobby had back in the day.
Wow. Yeah. So, I guess going back further, how did you find yourself in the world of NASCAR? Like, what's kind of the life story, so to speak? What was the events that unfolded that got you where you are today?
Well, when you're young, sometimes you do stuff. It's not necessarily bad, but people get tired of your antics. Right, Joe?
Right.
And then you're sitting there, and your dad and a judge is telling you you're either going to go to jail or you're going to join the military.
Yep.
A week later, I left for the Navy. So,
probably a good call.
Yeah. Spent some time in the Navy, and I enjoyed that time, and really, it's what I needed personally at the time to kind of. It didn't work totally, but it kind of got me going in the right direction.
At least now it's directed antics rather than just antics generally.
Yeah, you kind of learn when the antics are good and when they're not, and fail safe it. So, then from there, after I got out of the Navy, I came home and was kind of confused as to what I wanted to do and stuff like that. And kind of slid back into the antic mode a little bit. And that was 2 weeks after I got home. On the third week, my dad had my suitcase packed and $1,000 in cash in an envelope and gave me the farm truck and said, "You need to go to North Carolina. They got these stock car things down there. I think you'll like that." So yeah, I've never been to North Carolina either.
So what, you just ended up there and started knocking on doors or what?
That's it. Yeah, started knocking on doors, and a man owned the team named Richard Jackson on the Skull #1 Ford Thunderbird. And Kevin Hamlin was the crew chief, and for some reason he gave me a chance. And so from there, just spent from '93, I think, till 2008, 9. Spent my time, in NASCAR, and when they came out with that COT car in 2006, I really didn't. That just didn't interest me any. There's too many rules, and there was no room for antics. And so I decided to slowly start my own business. And it was a struggle at the first 5 years. Trying to find a business model. Working on stock cars. We did some motorcycle stuff, and it finally all came around. Really, the catalyst for where we're at now is Project 39, when we built that truck in 2014.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just the antics in NASCAR are ever evolving based on the rules package and how many antics we're gonna. It's really come down to in NASCAR, in my opinion. It's how much can you cheat and not get caught. That's really what it is.
It used to really be like that, but when you get caught cheating and your body's 10,000ths of an inch out of spec, that's not cheating. We used to move stuff like 6 inches. 10,000ths of an inch. Cool story, bro.
Could you imagine if you pulled up to tech today in NASCAR and they were like you were 6 inches off spec? They wouldn't think you're cheating. They'd be like, "Oh, I think you got a mistake here.
You brought the wrong car."
Yeah, I think you just brought the wrong car. Somebody was measuring in metric instead of inches. I think that day.
Very creative.
Yeah, I think it's definitely NASCAR has found itself thrust back more so than before into the spotlight with coming back and doing what they're doing right now. And I mean, I'm a big NASCAR fan. I enjoy watching it, but it's just watching like the same rotation of tracks all the time just isn't as interesting.
I think if you look back at the history of NASCAR, when there was personalities in it, not saying there's not a lot now, but as far as the crew members and the crew chiefs and the guys that built the cars, guys stayed late. We stayed at midnight and worked on stuff. I remember when I worked at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, when it was time to get ready for the Daytona 500, which was the day after you got back from the Daytona 500, it was a year-long project to, that was your whole focus for a year. And you just did every little thing you could. And now, it's computers and, let's move this 10,000ths of an inch. And that's just, to me, that's just not really interesting to garage guys. I want to hear about how you moved the tail over 6 inches and made the window fit. That's what I want to hear about.
Yeah, I'm all interested in the. It's definitely an engineer's game, especially when, what was it, a year ago, with the whole Kevin Harvick rear window, how they had engineered the window to go in, and supposedly they didn't plan that, but then got caught after the window.
We were making cars in 1999 that would drop 3/4 of an inch on the racetrack without jerking around with the rear window.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we did so much. There was so much creativity, and even talking to a lot of the guys that I used to work with, and they were on different teams. And now you can kind of swap some of those stories. Some of the stuff they were doing, some of the stuff we were doing. If everybody ever got together and made one car, they'd probably go 300 mile an hour down there.
Well, I was looking. The cars have gotten so slow to what they were. They don't want them to go fast. It's all about side by side and aero packages, and they don't want the cars to go fast. They're going considerably slower than last season. In some cases, almost 20, 30 miles an hour slower top speed than they were last year.
Well, our land speed program, we have a 2018 Ford Fusion, a cup car. That's a Roush Fenway car.
Yep.
And we put that together, and we, over the course of the last year, we ran it in the mile, we ran it in a mile and a half. We took it to Bonneville last year, but didn't really get a chance to put a speed down because the track was in, pretty bad shape. But we raced at Spaceport back in February, and this is a, legitimate Roush Yates FR9 engine, legitimate stock car parts on, on this car. We never put one Ziz wheel on the body. We tweaked on a few little things underneath and in the back, just tiny little tricks that we know work. But that car went 235 miles an hour from a standing start in a mile and a half.
Yeah.
And it has more, in it.
Wow. That's, I mean, I guess it just goes to show you that those cars are no slouch just in the what's there. But I think it does show you that how much NASCAR truly bottlenecks the vehicle itself in terms of the environment you're racing in.
Well, I kind of understand why they do that, because I was, there through that whole kind of fruition of, okay, this is a stock car, to wow, it looks like it got hit by a boat in the side of it. The crazy bodies and in the big teams. I mean, we were spending, a lot of money developing for just a count of drag, a half a count of drag.
Yeah.
The speedways and the downforce. And it did make it difficult for the lower level teams to keep up. I remember at one point at DEI, they were making their own ring and pinions to have their own special ratio. So, so it did get the advent of engineering, the introduction to engineering and CNC machines did bring a lot of cost to the sport. It also brought a lot of very good competition, but it also left the back half of the field kind of behind.
Yeah, I think that's still pretty evident today in terms of the discrepancy of team finances. It's better than it used to be. It definitely has gotten a little bit better, but I think it's still evident that there is truly, first tier teams, second tier teams, and then even in some cases there's third tier teams.
Like that in baseball, in football, soccer, wherever you want to be, you're never going to, no matter how hard you try, you're never going to make all the cars exactly equal.
And didn't you drive it though too, or no? Did you drive it that time?
Which one?
When at the 235 and the 240 something speeds?
I drove that car at Bonneville. I drove to Spaceport, Arkansas. We did the test passes there. They're going to run a mile and a half there, so we did the test passes last year there for the mile and a half run. Just eased down through there at, I think, 233 or something, just playing. So
just see what's there.
just playing around.
But we didn't want to run out of runway, which was a legitimate concern because nobody had ever run a mile and a half there.
So what's it like running those cars that fast? Like, does it feel like the thing's gonna shake apart, or does it feel stable like it wants to go that fast?
There's not. I mean, the Roush Yates engines and the CNR Gear FX drivetrains, there's not one vibration in the gear shift. Not a one. There's not any vibrations in the car. We ride on bump stops. As the car goes faster and faster, it'll settle down on a bump stop package, and we work real hard on the durometers on that. But when you get down on the bump stops, they'll jump sideways on you if you hit a wet spot, a weeper in the track, or a bump. You got to stay with it, but they just ease right down through there and just stay calm.
I guess I don't know. I can't even imagine going that fast in a vehicle. And I mean, the fact that you sneeze and that's it, you're done.
Now the 39, that's a different story. That's more raw. That truck, you wear that truck. I mean, Joe sat in it.
Yeah, dude, it's the driveway.
It's a bullet. It's 200 mile an hour steel carbureted hot rod.
Wow. Yeah. So what's that, Joe?
I was like, when that thing turns on, man, he sent me a couple videos, man. Sounds like a pro, like a off-road racing vehicle or something, like a Pro 4 or something. Like, what is that?
So Joe, you're gonna drive it next at the Salt Flats. Aaron's gonna put you in there. We'll get Joe making like a 75 mile an hour pass.
Yeah, we can do that. We'll make it happen.
No, like on the GoPro video, just speed it up.
Joe makes Joe's gonna make a 75-mile-an-hour pass, and everyone's gonna be like, was he sleeping? Like everyone watching.
Aaron,
like,
Aaron,
what's his-
is that Aaron?
We'll
that
do it
the
at
warm-up
night so
run?
it seems really fast.
Yeah. So yeah, that's wild. I just can't. I think it's just so hard to wrap your head around that perception of speed of going that fast in something when it's like you've never done it. I think it's just like I don't know. I just think it's wild.
And when
The big thing is getting it to fourth gear. When you get to fourth gear, it's the 0 to about 220 that you got to wheel it. You know, I mean, once you crack that 220 mark, it's like riding in a Cadillac, but it's wheeling it to get there. You got to really pedal them to get it going. That you just run out of space. You only got so much space.
Yeah. So when are you guys you have plans to go back to the Salt Flats then with that car soon?
Yeah, the East Coast Timing Association. We actually got a lot going on with the land speed program right now. You know, back to the Bonneville deal with the original Dodge.
Yeah.
Right now, for Labware and Vance Kirshner and his company, we're building. We have a 2-year program. We just took it to the wind tunnel last week. We're building a 1970 Dodge Daytona in NASCAR. We're on a NASCAR chassis.
Oh, really?
Custom built 117-inch NASCAR chassis, carbon seat, carbon dash. Penske's doing the engines, got the old Dodge R6 engines, which was the last generation of Dodge NASCAR engines. It's got all the latest, greatest NASCAR parts up under it and technology and resources. And that'll be a number 71 Bobby Isaac K&K Dodge, painted up just like his car was back in 70 when he won the championship. And so we're going to take that car and we're going to race it in October at the Arkansas Mile. And then we might bring it to SEMA. We might bring it to PRI, to be determined. And then that car will be under development next year for Bonneville. And we're going to go out there. I think that car will be 275-mile-an-hour car from what we've seen, the preliminary data we have right now.
Wow.
And then with that car, July 4th, the East Coast Timing Association, Steve Stroop and his group, they are running a 3-day, 1.5-mile event in Blytheville, Arkansas. And he worked really, really hard to get that event up and going and worked with the local governments. And it's 4th of July weekend. And I really think it's going to be a great way for everybody to get out and get back racing. And we're working on a deal also to take the Cup car to Cape Canaveral down in Florida, run 2 miles on Space Shuttle runway.
Oh, wow.
That's 2 miles. I think we could probably go 250, 255 down there.
So you're going to race it against one of Elon Musk's Teslas down there or what?
Bring it. They never turned down a race. We might not win, but I ain't turning it down.
That'd be interesting. I'm so interested to see the SpaceX launch. We had it on
Saturday.
Yeah, we had it on yesterday. Yeah, and
I was looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, and then they at last minute scrubbed it. So we'll see Saturday. Hopefully they make it up there. I think it's sad to me that that's such a momentous event and how it's been so overshadowed based on everything else going on right now that any other time that thing it'd have huge news coverage that's happening.
America needs to see that thing take off.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it will.
I think it will. If anybody's going to do it, it's probably going to be Elon Musk, I would think.
Exactly. Yeah, he's got it covered. And then June 6th, next weekend, we're taking our modified down to Dillon, South Carolina. We're going to get that out for the first time this year.
Nice.
Short track event.
Nice. That'll be cool. So what about some off-roading stuff? You said you got more of that planned.
We had some stuff planned, before all this to do some, a few summertime trips, and with everything that's happened in our whole schedules, we also have a 3-car late model team. We have 2 super late models and a late model stock that we're behind 10 races on now. So, with everything that's happened, we're kind of readjusting our schedule on the fly as we go. And I really feel like we're definitely going to go to Overland Expo East. I definitely want to do that again. That was a great show this year up in Virginia. And, we usually do a little, 7-day trip. Last year, Michael from Overland Bound and he drove our Raptor with the Atturo tires on it. and
Pretty
I
nice.
drove the FJ, and we sat on a 4 or 5 day trip up through West Virginia and over. But we definitely got some off road stuff in the works. We just got to see where it fits back into everything else that's kind of moved around.
Yeah, I definitely want to get back on the trail with some of our toys and our stuff. I think I've been cooped up too long, so hopefully we can get to some events and get some stuff going and hit
We'll
some
have to
trails
ask
soon.
Joe about our beach trips.
Oh, man,
Joe, how about the
exactly.
beach trips? Let's hear it.
Yeah, that's why like earlier I saw Jim too just talking about the OBX trip. I'm like, yes, man, it's much needed. We'll fit that into there you go. We'll do the Overland Expo East and then somehow venture down into the
That'd be a
northern
great
banks.
trip. Go from the Outer Banks up to Virginia, up through
Yeah.
Plus they got that new South Carolina overland route. It's 860 miles
Huh.
that runs through South Carolina and North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's mostly off road, so that's something I'd like to do. So that might be a neat little Atturo event.
Maybe we could take the Jeep on that, man. The
Yeah.
Jeep can make it. And the Ranger, the Jeep and the Ranger.
Drive the Raptor. Just fly down here and drive the Raptor.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it was. What was that? 2 years ago, you guys went camping, Joe. I didn't get the invite. Joe didn't invite me. He just went by himself and just beat up everything on the Jeep and then came
camping.
back.
It was tent camping, man.
It was really crowded and stuff. You wouldn't have had a good time.
Joe for some reason thought I didn't like tent camping. Like we're going the first year we did the All for Fun event in Colorado. We're going out there and it's like it's camping because you're in the middle of the mountains. There's no like hotels. So I'm like, yeah, we'll just camp. Joe's like, are you okay with tent camping? I'm like, yeah. I mean, it doesn't bother me. He goes, are you sure? Like I didn't think you liked tent camping. No reason for Joe to have thought this. Like I've never said anything. He just automatically assumed I wasn't gonna like tent camping. I'm like,
it's like why not,
dude? Why wouldn't I?
How Aaron talks about antics. So the OBX, here's a funny story. We're out there, whatever, and taking pictures of something, this and that. He's not there at the time. And then this park ranger comes by and the truck, obviously it's marked. So, she's like, hey, where's your buddy at? And I'm like, I'm looking around. He's not here. I'm like, he's not here at the moment. Like, oh man, what do you do? So I'm like, oh, he'll be back though, and then obviously she takes off and then I'm like, hey man, she's out here looking for you. What'd you do? Nothing. I don't think. I'm like, all right.
I don't think.
Nothing. I don't think. Like, all right.
And kind of had to go, back to those previous few hours, see if we did anything.
Where's your buddy?
Yeah, I would love to be part of some of the antics one day.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if we're ever all allowed to, leave our houses and go do things again. Which
I'd tell you that South Carolina off-road route might be something to think about. I think that'd be a lot of fun. The Atturo tire owners, so
right. We're gonna have
here to go.
pump this in.
Yeah, Joe, we'll bring both the toys out. Bring the Ranger out and the Jeep.
We'll have to get Nathan to come too.
Yeah, man, and we would need roof tents, right?
No, we don't need roof tents, Joe. Joe wants a rooftop.
South Carolina, bring a hammock.
Joe wants a rooftop tent on the Ranger for whatever reason. I don't know why. Joe's just and I told him when he wants this, I go, Joe, when we travel with we only fit one vehicle in the trailer. I'm like, so who's sleeping in the tent and who's sleeping in the ground? Because I'm sure as hell not sharing the tent with you.
Well, we had the rooftop tent on the Raptor, and I used that truck one weekend. We went over to the Outer Banks just on a quick trip. The very first time I never drove that truck. We built it for you guys and had the Europeans drove it. And so I never slept in the rooftop tent. We got there that night at about 11 o'clock and I'm putting the tent up and I fell off the top of the Raptor. I'm done. I'm out. And that's a long way down. That's not like, that's not
but it's fast.
That's what I worry about. Like I see those rooftop tents and it's like I'm a bigger guy. I'm like, I don't care how well engineered your tent is. I don't trust that that's going to support me. Like,
yeah, I fell off the Raptor one time and I'm out. I'm done.
You're like, so you just like throw a blanket on me, toss me a pillow. I'm staying down here.
I think I did sleep on the ground that night. I gave up on it.
Oh,
I
man.
took the sleeping bag out, slept on top of the picnic table.
Oh, Yeah, Jim says I shouldn't knock the rooftop tent. I'm not saying that rooftop tents aren't great. I'm saying I don't want to.
Rooftop tent. It has the total look.
I'm saying I don't want to sleep with Joe in a rooftop tent. That's just not. We don't have 2 rooftop tents, so
we need a bigger tent.
Joe, they don't make tents big enough.
Sweet. You better be careful. Jim might, get you a double wide rooftop.
Build a little divider in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like, why is your love seat here?
Chris says, I'm 300 pounds of pure loving and I use a rooftop tent with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what rooftop tent you are, because that might be good enough for me. That's I don't know. I'd be worried I'm gonna fall out, like roll out the side or something.
I did add that Overland East though today, Aaron. After we talked the other day about that, man, to like as far as like what events, kind of looking out there and stuff like that.
No, that's a good move, Joe. And we'll talk about it. We'll do something for you up there. Ain't no problem.
Yeah. So in terms of events too, I guess on the topic of events, it does appear that the next event Atturo will be attending as of now would be Scraping the Coast in Biloxi, Mississippi. Looks like they're going to move on as planned. Haven't gotten any sort of guidance in terms of how they're going to run the event differently in terms of social distancing or mask wearing or anything. They're going to go business as usual, and they're going to press on as of now. And that event is June 26th through the 28th.
Yeah.
So just over a month away, just barely, just under a month away actually now.
I kind of wonder, sorry to cut you off, man.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, I kind of wonder what that event, because usually like you have like the vendor stuff and all that, and I think myself, you and George, last year we saw is the drive, man, the cruise. That's probably what it would just be the busiest, that'll probably be, so the vendor show, that is going to be interesting.
I'm just so curious because in terms of events, as far as I know, I mean, that's a pretty major event in terms of capacity, in terms of people that show up, physical bodies. I'm going to be curious to see, as this is one of the first events that's kind of happened here, how that's going to go.
They had 4,000 people over at Ace Speedway in North Carolina last
week.
I
did see that.
So it's going to be interesting to kind of watch the numbers here in North Carolina and that county, over the next couple of weeks and see what happens. I mean, that was a legitimate 4,000 people, in the stands. So a couple of weeks, we just kind of look over there at the county Ace Speedways in and see what's going on.
Christopher says we should go to Rockfest end of June in Black Hill, South Dakota. I have not heard of that one. Is that just mainly a wheeling event, or is there vending there too? Because usually in order to sell going to an event, so to speak, we have to at least do some vending, even if it's, the All for Fun event in Colorado where we're there for a week, but one day of vending, it's at least, it's a little easier to sell on, like, hey, we're going to go do all this vending, but it's really one day.
No, you know what though? I think this is kind of a new approach. I think a lot of shows might be taking is like a experience type vending, like seeing your stuff in action, showing me what it does, not just like standing at your booth and talking about it. But I do like how they have it. It's like you have all early in the week, everyone you meet out there, and then at the end of the day, like the end of the week on a Friday, you can kind of get feedback and whatnot, but at least you had the chance to show your stuff.
But have you heard anything on Overland Expo in Colorado? See, our original plan was to take the FJ out to Bonneville, the FJ and the Raptor, and then wheel from Bonneville over to Colorado for Overland Expo Colorado, wherever they're calling.
I think like Loveland or something I was reading.
Yeah, somewhere up in there, So we haven't really heard anything on that, but that was one of the off-road events we were looking at also. And one of our really good partners, Attends, they were really interested in doing that trip. So I hope it works out for them and us. The Attends crew, they're great people. They supported our land speed race and stuff for the last couple of years, and they wanted to get involved in some of the overland and off-road stuff also. So hopefully that works out for everybody.
Christopher Frizzle in the comments again said Overland Expo in Colorado is still a go as of yesterday.
Nice.
So I think the approach most of these event planners are taking, which for better or for worse, they're just staying very tight-lipped or going specifically business as usual until, the very last minute, they're just going to cut it off. So for better or for worse, I don't know which that is. I mean, because you kind of leave people, especially on the vendor side, like we're up in the air where we don't want to commit and put the resources and the money into to attend that, only for you a week before to say, nope, we're not doing it. Like, I get you're going to refund us our money, but like we still put a lot of resources and time and planning that in the back end of things. So I don't really know if that's the best approach, at least from a vendor standpoint. Maybe consumers don't really care if things get canceled last minute. I don't know.
And that's kind of where we're at with the super late model team and Jill Linster, from Luxembourg. We raced at New Smyrna for the World Asphalt Speed event down there back in February, and he was supposed to come back in April. We built a brand new car for Martinsville, late model stock for Martinsville. We had the two supers ready for the Carolina Pro Series, and here we sit, and they're starting to slowly come back to racing, but he can't get here because the borders are still closed. That, like you say, it's like a floating schedule. I mean, if they call tomorrow and say that the borders are open, I can guarantee you Jill's going to be on the first plane out of Luxembourg.
Yeah.
And we've missed out on 3-4 months of development time, but we have a floating plan in place to replace what we've lost.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not a loss, and that's why I tell these guys here at the shop, it's not a loss. We're just it's just a moving window right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when it opens up, we'll jump through it.
I honestly don't know if or when international travel is going to even open up this year. I realistically don't see them opening up international travel in 2020. I think that's going to be the very last thing to open up.
I agree with you. With essential business travelers being able to travel, the tourism stuff, it's difficult. It's going to be difficult. I know Belgium, June 8th, the EU is going to start opening their borders and taking down the border checkpoints throughout Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, stuff like that. So they're going to allow a little bit more travel there. And, we'll just have to, we're just, like I say, it's a moving window. If you jump too quick, you're going to hit your head on the wall.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's everybody. It's a moving target, and I think at some point people need to realize that the target's not maybe going to stop moving, and we just gotta get as close as we can to hitting it, and wherever we land is where we land to a degree.
And that's what we've done here. We had 18 late model races on the schedule this year for Jill, and we're still going to do 15 to 18 races. It just might be later in the year, and we might have to go down to Florida over the winter to get our, to make up for our lost developmental time and our testing and some of the races we were going to do. They canceled Martinsville already in September, so we're going to try to run the Bobby Isaac Memorial in Hickory. So it's like you said, it's a constant moving. It's like you just throw cards up, and wherever they fall, they fall.
Well, and I think that's like I said before, it's great for a event attendee, for like a regular person. That's fine. They're like, oh, whatever, the event doesn't happen. But for us, like my schedule is ever change. Like for somebody who goes to all these events, our schedule is now ever changing. And like you said, it's just jumbling all over the place. So it's a nightmare for people like us who try to go to different things and different events and try to time all that so well. And especially with now us driving to more stuff, that takes up more time. So now if events are going to butt together that weren't butting together before, like our calendar for October, September is completely full now because all these early events in the spring and early summer are getting pushed back to, Edwin says I'm yelling.
No, you sound like Darth Vader voice.
Oh,
Darth Vader voice.
Why are all these events now are getting pushed back to the fall? So these events, I'm curious how these event attendees are gonna, or the event planners are gonna realize now you've put all your events on top of each other. If people want to go to certain things, now they're gonna have to choose. So maybe you're just hurting yourself more.
Well, I think we get to that point where people have to, can choose what events they want to go to. That's going to be great for the economy because that means we're past, on the downward side of all this. And, and us as businesses, we might have to soak up a little bit of that. And yeah, you're going to go to a show that's really good and you're going to go to one that's really bad. It's the same as the races. We're going to go to some late model races that are really, really good. And we're going to go to some that there's two people in the stands.
Yeah.
But we're racing and you're there and things are happening. So
keeping it alive.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's what NASCAR is trying to do right now is to just, like you said, keep it alive and keep it going. Because like I mean, they're running whatever two races a week now in the
Yeah, they're
Cup
racing
Series.
tonight.
Yeah, I think they were supposed to be racing right now. I think that got rained out, actually, is what I saw right before we
Rain out
started.
again.
Yeah. So they're trying to keep pushing on and planning and doing that. I don't know what if the viewer retention is going to be the same as people tuning in for Darlington every week as it would be if it was a different racetrack. Like how many people actually watch for the different tracks versus watching for the actual racing. I don't know.
I think once they get past the Charlotte and stuff, this weekend they're racing at Bristol. I think that'll be a boost. I mean, Bristol's always a pretty good race, and Martinsville's on the schedule here in
Yeah.
June. So, once they get to some short track stuff and and can venture out a little farther where these guys are safe to travel and the teams are safe to travel, and they're trying to do what they can within a day's drive of the shops, and I applaud them for that.
Oh yeah, I applaud them for trying to make it work and doing with what you can within the realm of possibility. And I think a lot of the other organizations and sports organizations are watching them to see kind of how they're doing it and if it's viable. And I mean, so far it seems to be working. There's no massive outbreak within any of the teams as far as has been reported. So I don't think there's an issue.
Racing wise, at least by us, Crandon, that last message that you sent out that they canceled the June race. However, they were like July, Tennessee, Ultra 4, it's happening no matter what, it's a go, So I think, yeah, July is going to start. And I think even that maybe it was something of like racers only, teams only, and something like that, limited as far as what people were going to be allowed. But they're still, yeah, it's going to go on, for sure.
I am looking forward to Bristol, one of my personal favorite tracks in NASCAR. I think it's a good race. We went there 2 years ago. A bunch of us went there and watched the race, and that's just a great venue, great place to watch some racing. I think it's got a lot of history, and I'm a little upset there's not more short tracks on the schedule. I think it's a lot more entertaining as a spectator, but we'll see how NASCAR gets shaken up, especially with the new package coming, and I guess they pushed that off another year. So we'll see how all that kind of changes things with that sort of thing. What do you think about the new NASCAR package, Aaron? The upcoming one.
What do you want, the frosty version or the straight up version?
Oh, we'll go straight up because I have some pretty strong opinions on it too. So I think we'll be okay here.
I don't like it. I just think that when the only thing the teams can change on the car is like brake pads and some of the direction, the aluminum wheels, the one lug nut, it just seems like they're moving farther and farther from the core. We do a lot of work for NASCAR, a lot of safety projects for them, and I've learned a lot through the years doing those R&D projects for them here at the shop. But I think they have a really good package right now. I mean, the racing's close. Everybody seems to, even the lowest level teams seem to be able to sneak one out every now and then. And the way this crisis has affected racing in general, I really think they need to put a lock on changes for the next 5 years and let all these teams recover and just develop what they have. And the racing's only going to get closer as that information will eventually trickle down to those lower teams, and they'll only get better as people move around and people talk and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially things like the single lug and the aluminum wheels. NASCAR is not Formula One, and I don't understand why they feel at the top level NASCAR feels that they need to become Formula One. People who watch NASCAR don't watch it. Don't sit there and go, you know what I really want? I really wish this was more like a Formula One race. You know why they don't think that? Because they could go watch Formula One if they wanted to, and they're not.
I think the innovation it's all warranted. All the innovation is warranted, and some of the details in the Gen 7 car, they're really neat. I mean, it takes them into the future, but are the fans ready for the future right now? And I'm saying that not as a fan, but somebody that was involved in NASCAR and kind of seen it when we would go race at Daytona in 1994, it took you 3 hours to get from the racetrack down to A1A. The traffic was backed up,
Wow.
and
Wow.
now you go down there and you can be down there in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So, eh, and with the souvenir trailers and those lots at night and the campgrounds, again, we raced at Talladega back in the 90s. You could not get out of that racetrack if you were driving. I mean, it was midnight before you got to the front gate. And it's
Wow.
not that people were leaving. There was that many people still there.
Wow.
So, until it's that model has so many moving parts. I mean, all I have is an opinion from seeing it over 25 years. And I'm sure whatever course they choose, it'll be fine. But,
Mhm.
that's why we're building the 1970 Dodge Daytona on basically a cup chassis.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great technology, but let's just make it look cool.
Yeah. No, I think it's cool from a technological standpoint, but I just don't know if it's going to provide the end result in terms of racing and in terms of entertainment, in terms of NASCAR as a sport that they're looking for.
We'll see. I mean, obviously you and me can't make any
Yeah,
decisions in
that's
that,
true.
but it's America and we can have an opinion. That's the good thing.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's just I think the racing's pretty good now, especially on the short tracks.
Yeah.
And there's been some good mile-and-a-half races, and Daytona and Talladega is always pretty exciting. So they're in a good place right now, and it's the first time in a long time that I've actually went back and watch Martinsville and we cook out here at the shop, or we watch Daytona and Talladega and have a cookout and or do something around the race
Yeah.
to enjoy it. So for us to do that when we're here at the shop, I think they're in a good place right now.
It's got to be pretty exciting if it's pulling your attention to it.
It gives us something to do.
Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about the R&D stuff you've done with NASCAR? I've seen in the past, I know you did a little bit in terms of roll cage safety technology and cage safety technology. Do you want to kind of go into that a little bit?
Well, I don't know. It's been 2-3 years ago. The head of training for NASCAR Trackside Services, Gayla Height, she came to me and they had a car that these guys they go. The NASCAR Trackside Services are really serious about the safety with AMR and stuff like that. There would be 200-300 students a weekend, almost every weekend at a NASCAR track around the country doing training,
Wow.
fire safety training. So that it's not amateur hours. These guys really put a lot of heart and soul and women into what they do for this training. And they had a car. It was basically a chassis, and they had rubber hose clamps on it, and they were practicing cutting with the cutters, and it just wasn't very realistic. And Gayla asked us if we could design something that could go through 150 or 200 cycles per day on training and be realistic. And I was like, so you want to cut the roof off a legitimate cup car, put it back on, take it back off. And I figured it out. You're going to have to do that through the course. You're going to have like a 6-minute evolution,
Yeah.
6 to 8 minute evolution. So, well, we do a little less. And I said, okay. I said, what if we can get the evolution to 10 minutes? Would that get you enough people throughout the day on your training? So absolutely. And we did it. And we designed and patented our own couplers for the cage, and it has a whole body on it, and they go in with the cutters, they cut the windshield. It was a pretty complicated process. Guy that worked here, we were actually on Expedition SEMA while that project was going on 2 years ago. Took us 3 months to build it. Dwayne Beaver was a big part in that project, and it all came together. We took it down to the NASCAR safety show last year and basically gave a big talk on it. And the car's been flawless. It has a smoke machine. It leaks water. They put it on the track and
Oh, wow.
practice, do all kind of stuff on our Facebook page, the Garage Shop. There's some videos of it. It was quite the engineering feat. And then to get it, when you put it all back together, it looks no different than a car that should be on the track.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. I mean, yeah, those the safety and that sort of thing. I mean, obviously was brought to light recently with Ryan Newman's crash, and that was pretty scary. And it's a testament to how much safety and R&D and all that stuff goes into these cars and these systems that you never hope you have to use or put to the test, but sometimes you do, and clearly they work because he's alive with pretty much no major injuries, if any. So it's pretty
And
incredible.
NASCAR's, in my opinion, NASCAR's response to Ryan Newman's accident and Eric Amarillo's, and even Kyle Busch when he hit the fence down there at Daytona and broke his feet. When there's a major incident, they react properly.
Yeah.
That they don't make a knee jerk reaction. All the safety, the COT car in 2006 was one of the safest race cars ever built, and they've done nothing but make it even more safe over the last 13 years.
Mhm.
You saw what Ryan Newman went through in Austin Dillon at Daytona.
Yeah.
It's violent, and those guys are out back driving race cars.
Yeah.
So again, hats off to those guys, to the fire crews and the NASCAR technical side for addressing what could be a problem if this ever happened again, and they've done a phenomenal job at that.
Yeah. I think it's truly amazing the technology and the engineering and just how that all comes together to make. I mean, these guys are going almost 200 miles an hour, super close to each other around a circle repetitively for hours. You're tired, you're whatever. It's not a place to make mistakes. When mistakes happen, it's drastic. It's crazy what happens to, when you make that mistake. And it's, you see what happened with Newman, and it's incredible that they are able to, you know, he didn't walk away from that, but I mean, basically, in terms of long term, he walked away from it.
Yeah, that was pretty special, and again, the fire safety crews had him out of the car, I think, in under 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was really quick.
I mean, those guys, they did a great job through their training program and what Gala does throughout that stuff, and the AMR, the doctors on scene that they have now. Back in the 90s, early 90s, you had a volunteer ambulance with Billy Joe riding in it, watching the race, having Budweiser or something. But now they've really upped that entire game is. And I've been to a couple of the firefighting, the safety training courses through what we do with NASCAR,
Hmm.
and they are an amazing event to attend. There's really a lot of knowledge to be had from those people.
Yeah. So what would you say is one of your best NASCAR stories from your time in Nat? What's like a really good story, like just a great, like, I guess, sit
A
down, like,
legal one, or
just like a good camp, like the good campfire story. Like you sit down and you just like, what's one of those?
I think just, I mean, every day I was involved, it was a good story. I mean, we were always doing something. We were really out at the proving grounds, the GM proving grounds out there in Phoenix, or wind tunnels in Marietta, wind tunnels in Canada, the track testing, and just the people you meet along the way. Were that it's all kind of one big story.
Yeah.
You're so focused on work that one of my favorite things is when in all of NASCAR is kind of after we restored Darrell Waltrip's 1996 Chrome car
Hmm.
for Darrell, and he came up to the shop to see it for the first time. And when he came up, he pulled up a chair and just told a whole bunch of just cool stories.
Hmm.
So after we got done listening to Darrell's stories, it made any stories I have pretty insane.
Yeah, I'd imagine that I'd love to just, a half hour of stories from him is probably just incredible. What the just amount of experience and knowledge you could hear from somebody like that who's been just literally lived their life in this world of NASCAR, of motorsports, or something like that. The amount of just general knowledge you gain, I imagine, is just insane.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that would probably be my story. Is I liked Darrell's stories.
uh, I guess in the what would you say is one of the kind of capstone or proudest moments of your career as a whole? Like one of the things one of your most proud things you're achieving, or one of your favorite projects, or something like that.
I don't think it's as much as an achievement as the people I got to work for with Ray Evernham, and Paul Andrews and Steve Meal and Kevin Hamlin, and to be able to be in the sport at a time where those guys really, they rode you really hard, and they wanted to win, and not just every week, every day. They
Yeah.
wanted to beat each other to the shop. They wanted to see who could stay the latest. And I really enjoyed that part. The success is you're only as good as your last race, and winning winning is very rewarding, but being able to go back and do it again, that to me is better. Is one success. I mean, yeah, that's great. We first cup race I was ever involved with, we won. I don't know, 1995 with Jeff Bodine, Watkins Glen, New York. He almost lost the race. He put the window net down about 3 turns before the end of the race and waving at the crowd, and Terry Labonte was going to mow him down. But we ended up winning that one. But the excitement kind of goes away, and you focus more. That win goes away on Monday.
Yeah.
It's a new week. It's a new race. So, being able to win another one and another one and another one. And I always enjoy the Speedway racing. So to be a part of Dale Earnhardt Incorporated and in the Speedway program there, and the success that it had in the early 2000s, 3 Daytona 500 wins, and, Talladega, and, the nationwide stuff and the Busch stuff that went on there. I was really proud to be a part of probably one of the most dominant restrictor plate programs ever in the history of NASCAR. That was pretty special to me,
Mhm.
to just be a part of that group of people.
Yeah. I think it's like you said, when you've been in a industry and a career so long, you're working in it. You're not thinking about like things like that. You're just doing work, and one day you look back at it and realize, wow, I kind of did a lot of cool shit. So um Joe brought up earlier before the show that he wanted to talk about some of your military stories. If you want to talk about that, Joe, if you guys want to go into that a little bit.
We were rescuing ducks on the crane. Got attacked by a goose.
Yeah. No, I was just telling Colin. I was like, yeah, it's interesting. Like, Colin never, or not Colin. Aaron doesn't talk too much about himself, obviously, or nothing like that. I'm like, but he's a bad dude, man. The guy can weld. He's welded some pretty important pieces that were needed in certain situations. The man can weld.
We had welding school here that night at the shop with Nathan.
Yeah, I heard Nathan zapped himself a few times.
Yeah. Well, because Aaron and I are talking, and then I hear Aaron he looks over, and Nathan's like, "You okay?" And then Nathan's just kind of frozen, and he's like, "You shocked yourself, didn't you?" But he's just like, Then like 5 minutes later, he's inside the Jeep or the Raptor, just
Yeah,
passed out.
that was a fun night. We had a great time that night.
Yeah.
Oh
Lots of
man.
good beverages, lots of good PBRs.
Yeah, that PBR sponsorship though.
Right.
They're,
That does look.
they're good people. They came on board for Project 39 and also Expedition SEMA, and we've had a pretty good relationship with those guys, and we're going to continue through with that, hopefully for a long time to
And
come.
it's nice too, because I like how it's all hand painted stuff, man. Like the
Yeah.
Atturo logo, the PBR logos and stuff. It's all hand painted, so it just matches the vintage look really well.
Yeah, those guys, sleeveless Bob there comes over and does that stuff, does it by hand, and it's a pretty amazing process to watch, and it's distressed, so it's pretty impressive
Just
to watch.
matches it.
Yeah.
So how did that PBR sponsorship happen? Did it start as like one of those things where it's a joke, like you started drinking a lot of PBR and you're like, man, I should get sponsored by a PBR so I get some free beer? How did what end up with that?
We had a mutual friend that we all went to dinner one night down in Charlotte, and we're sitting there talking, and PBR said, hey, this Expedition Stevens stuff, pretty good. Do you guys drink beer on the trip? No, hell no.
Why would we do that?
Why would I do that? So, when we told them about the trip, and they came on board for Project 39, the land speed stuff, and then we also put them on the Expedition SEMA trip, and and I don't know, it just kind of all fell together, and we all became really good friends, and I mean, I think what we figure out at the beach, we got 80 feet of PBR easy ups.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, because you had some t-shirts and like some wrist things, a couple other goodies, we're driving around and we see like group of kids and stuff hanging out, like, what's up, kids? PBR, here you go. PBR crew.
They're like,
PBR.
it's like they were thinking, man, I thought PBR just sent like those hot chicks to the bar and we just got stuck with Aaron. Like, what's going on? Like when you see those, when you go to the bar and you see like the reps for like whatever the beer brand and they're handing out samples, but it's Aaron handing out PBR. They're like, man, the pickings must be slim to get the PBR reps.
And Aaron gave me a koozie and a half warm beer. What's going on here?
It was already open. I think he drank it.
Yeah, I'm like, hold on.
Someone calls up PBR and it's like, yeah, this guy in this like really like beat up looking 4-wheel drive thing pulled up to me and gave me a PBR. Said he was sponsored by you. I don't know. He seemed kind of creepy. I don't know if I should take it or not.
When we were at the beach with Joe that weekend, so we're riding down the beach and the guy had a PBR easy up.
Yeah, easy up.
Had the canopy up. He waves at us like, hey, come here, because we had the PBR was on the FJ.
Yeah.
So we kind of wheel over there and he goes, are you Aaron? I said, yeah. He goes, I'm the East Coast distributor for PBR. You want one? He goes, we've been reading about this truck and all this stuff is great. Here, what do you need? No, we don't need any more stuff. We got boxes and boxes of stuff already.
Oh man. And what are the odds that something like that happens?
So it's like, wait, you work there? Whoa. What's up?
You're actually in charge of the East Coast. Oh, so you're like my boss.
Yes, wait, you're my boss then? How does this work?
Great.
Do you not want me handing out beer on the beach? Oh, okay. Whoops. Yeah, I think that's
a really much needed trip. And I was just saying, like, the more you think about that trip, it's like, like Pismo Beach, Outer Banks, those are just certain places that, man, just can't wait to get back out to those.
Joe just likes to get to each coast, the extreme.
I think so. Slightly,
the extreme edge of the extreme edge of the country. That's just what he wants. Like, how can I?
Well, you can, but you're gonna need an airplane or a boat.
Yeah, it's true. Or some pontoons to put on the side of the Jeep.
We tried that down there one year with one of those rubber dinghy boats. That didn't. You missed that trip, Joe, when we had the overland boat thing, with the pontoon thing.
Is that where you guys like kind of like drive out to that certain part where like if you wait too long, the water or it comes up too much, and then you can't get back out or something like that?
Yeah, we had the boat down there, and I don't know, I don't know if we thought we were Navy SEALs or Army Rangers or whatever, but it didn't look like it. That's for sure. We made it about 6 feet offshore before we got thrown back up.
What you think you look like versus what you actually look like?
Exactly. That's exactly what that was.
They picture like in Aaron's head, they're like storming the beaches in Normandy when it's really just like a bunch of guys who had too much PBR on the beach trying to drive a truck into the water.
A bunch of old guys with a pontoon boat trying to get it in the ocean that can't get past their ankles. Yep. That was the reality of it.
Oh man. So what would you say was one of your biggest challenges in terms of starting your business and your career there as like starting the garage shop?
I think the biggest challenge, we had is when you say you're going to drive a 50-year-old truck across the country to SEMA and you're going to put it in Atturo's booth or Performance Plus Safety Clean. When you say that, there's no turning back. There's no trailers. There's no, oh, we can't make it. Oh, we're going to be late. You got to do that. And it's the same with the land speed cars. When you tell Drew Patey, we're going to go 235 miles an hour this weekend, you better go 235 miles an hour this weekend because the captain's going to come down on you pretty hard.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing with the 39. When we first started building that truck will never go 200 mile an hour. Yeah. Second event out at 201 miles an hour. So when you say something, you got to kind of have some engineered success, which I'm horrible at. We just kind of do it. But, I would say when you tell somebody you're going to do it, and especially corporate partners and things like that, you need to do it, and you need to be the very best at it, bar none.
Yeah. I think, like you said, especially when it adds an additional degree of difficulty when you have other people with expectations and then they have things riding on your performance, and that now you've compounded. So you don't want to be the weakest link in that chain. So now your expectations are even higher. So you don't disappoint this person. They don't disappoint that person. And then, so, but you're also the biggest variable in the chain versus all these corporate guys just like, well, yeah, we gave him this. So, but now he's going to do all this crazy stuff for us. And if he doesn't, then we're going to have to be very upset.
I like how you said. I like exactly how you said crazy stuff, man. Because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, can't remember when we first started working with Aaron, and it's like, he's. I talked to him on the phone, and he's like, yeah. So here's my timeline. I got to take off by this day, and this day to be around here, and by this day we end up at SEMA. And I'm like, dude, that's a long time to be, I guess whatever, And then he would take off, and sure enough, and I'm like, man, you're right. Like your days are so tight and accounted for. Like you said, I'm going to be there by this time, so that means I got to keep advancing. And no matter what type thing, it's like, man.
There was times in this truck that, Ed and I had to make up time. I mean, we wheeled 36 hours straight. I mean, if you get behind, you got to make it up. You just can't. Oh, this is fun. It is fun, but it can be stressful when the week before this truck's supposed to be in the booth at SEMA and you're hanging off a cliff up in the Belmont Mining District with. There's it's fun, but you got to balance your fun versus responsibilities.
Yeah,
delivering, right?
So is there anything new? Is there anything coming for the old FJ there, or is it pretty much going to stay how it is for a while?
We're pretty happy with it.
It's pretty beefed up.
Every time we take it out, we learn a little something. We add a little something. Ed was just here helping us on the Daytona here a couple weeks ago, and him and I had a few beers one night, sat around the FJ, and just made up a wish list of things we want to do. We want to lighten it up a little bit, and we're really happy with the suspension package and the tires and the wheels, and everything's working really, really well. I think the next big thing that we'll probably replace, we'll put an Atlas transfer case in it. Mm-hmm. It's still got the 50-year-old transfer case in it, but it's bolted to a 50-year-old transmission. So it works.
Yeah.
So, we'll probably do that. And, we just keep, it's an ever evolving project.
Do you think you're going to get into any more off-road kind of builds like that? Or are you just more going in the direction of the land speed stuff at the moment?
Well, we had talked about the Raptor, and doing a deal with the Raptor where we basically box the back of it and remove the bed. The Raptor is really a capable platform. Mm-hmm. It was out front of the off-road hall for you guys, and that truck was very capable on the Continental Divide. It's got great suspension with the Deaver springs, Atturo tires, all that stuff all came together to really, really work, and the FabTech shocks came together to work really well. So, we had talked about just taking the bed and everything off of it and doing a really nice overland style box. It would sleep to, be very lightweight, honeycombed aluminum, mm-hmm. very user friendly, something very custom, and going all the way to the Arctic Circle and back to SEMA in that truck.
Yeah, we're saying that.
That'd be cool.
Like I say, it's just talk. Not saying we're going to do it. It's going to be hard to pry me out of the FJ. I just love that old truck.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's one of those things where it's the little things you tweak. Like once you get to a point, and I think we're starting to get there with the Jeep, Joe. Would you say once you get to a point where you work out like all the major kinks, it's very much like the fine tuning things, like the little stuff that you overlook or don't think about until you get that seat time and that time in it, and then you start to notice like the very small details. And I think that's what people underappreciate when they look at vehicle builds is like the little stuff that people noticed over the years, not the months.
And it's just, and that's from learning every time you go out. Every time, we've never taken this truck out and not come back and either ripped it completely apart, inside or out. I mean, it's a constant evolution. I mean, I even talked to Ed. We always carry 2 spare tires. In the last 2 years, we needed no spare tires, and we believe in what we do with Atturo and in your product so much that we're not carrying 2 spare tires anymore. We're just going to carry one.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I remember the time we did pass through your shop and you had the FJ parked in there, and there was a little like a note card taped on there, and it said, sorry, it said, if you value your life, do not touch anything on here, do not remove anything up from here. You know, it's like, oh wow.
Well, it has all its own stuff, and sometimes whether it be the kids or somebody need a special wrench. Well, the next thing you know, it's out of the FJ. So yeah, we had to put a little note on the FJ. Do not remove anything from the inside of this FJ if you value your life.
What about that cooler, man? How you get a bigger cooler, maybe? Right? It's got a Sweet Yeti wrapped, camo wrapped one, desert wrapped.
Yeah. No, that cooler's been on all the trips with us, and no electric refrigerators, and really it's ground tents, and one cooler, a small beer cooler on the back, and we go.
Wow. So what do you guys do for food and stuff then? Just like freeze dried?
We have about a 500-mile range. So on a 500-mile range, depending on where you're at, Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, stuff like that, we carry enough food for about 7 days between dry goods and meat and bread. We can carry enough food for about 7 days. We could stretch that to 15 if you had to. Yeah, to really, I mean, that's how close that Ed and I figured this stuff out. I mean, the first year we didn't even have a spot locator or like a GPS we could text with or anything. Oh, wow. I mean, that was probably the dumbest thing we ever did.
You just North Star,
right? We had that little Magellan GPS, and Ed was like, nah. So he was on the paper maps, and
man,
we come down through Nevada down there. We're on a nice little 2-track, cruising along, nice afternoon, turned into a single track, turned into a fence line from about 1890. And then it turned into like this cow deer path thing.
Oh, and no.
We were the GPS didn't work. Everything was down. We were standing on the hood while Ed was standing on the hood while I was driving with binoculars looking for a cowboy camp. And we had a compass, and we knew where there was a road, but it was like 60 miles away. And we're just like out in this open nothing. Just
yeah.
And we got into this, like, there was like this little swampy, but we kind of cornered ourselves in there, and there's this little creek. And Ed says, well, I think we can get through that. And this was the first year when we were on Brand X tires. So I dropped off in there, boom, right to the bottom. That little creek was deep. And we were stuck. So we're looking around, and I'm like, Ed, I mean, and the FJ is not a small truck, and it was over the bumper stuck in the front. And he goes, well, we're going to have to get a shovel out and bury a spare tire. I'm like, you guys here, I'm not shoveling out. So we look behind us, and I know this fence post was exactly 98 feet from us. Yeah. There was an old fence post that was buried in concrete, like an old one, corner post, because our winch cable was 100 feet long.
Oh, man.
So that winch cable had like 3 wraps left on the drum. We wrapped it around the bottom of that old fence in the middle of nowhere. Like, I don't even know how somebody would put a fence post there. And we ran the winch cable under the truck. We got the truck out, snatched us right out. So that was all. That's great. Okay, so we started getting our bearings, and we're easing around this stuff. Everything's going good. And all of a sudden we see a dirt. You could tell it was a dirt road because it was built up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great. I looked down, and we had 0 oil pressure.
Oh no.
Instantly shut off all the switches, everything, shut everything down. Ed's like, what's wrong? I said, well, 0 oil pressure might be a problem. He said, how long has it been like that? I don't know. I just saw it. Probably a while. I can't remember last time I looked.
Yeah.
But we fixed that problem. We got lights in the back. Grandpa put LED lights, low pressure switches, and high temperature lights for us now because I'm not a good gauge watcher.
It's like notification.
Well, we had the race car gauges in it, which are electric, so you don't have oil lines running into it for a pressure gauge.
Yeah.
It goes to a sensor. So I said, Ed, well, I got out, we took our tools out, and we just popped the sensor out of the block. And I said, if we fire this thing up and it shoots oil out here, we're good. We pulled it, I fired it up, and it must have went 20 feet in the air. I had a hole all over my face, Ed soaked all up to it. This is a train wreck. So we swapped, Grandpa made sure we had a spare sensor, swapped sensor, everything was good. But yeah, that was the other panic.
Oh, wow. So how'd you guys make it out then after that? You found the dirt road and it just...
Yeah, we found the dirt road and just started driving on it until we got to a bigger dirt road. And then we got to a bigger dirt road. And then we both decided that camping was not in the books for us tonight. So we ended up down in, I think, Ely, Nevada is where we ended up rolling in there about midnight after all that fun.
Yeah. Day. I don't think I'd want to bed down in a tent after all that either, so I don't really blame you.
And that was a week from when we had to have the booth in the truck at SEMA.
Oh, jeez. So that you're just laying in bed at night after that, just that's all you're thinking about. Oh man, I got a week to get to Vegas.
That's when the first 3 weeks aren't so bad because you got you can fix stuff, and we've never really had a massive failure that we didn't. We've never been stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
And, it's that last week after you beat on that thing for 21, 22 solid days of beating on it, like every day, all day, 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a day of beating on it. It's like, man, we got 1 week to go. And all of a sudden, every little squeak, every little noise, everything's a disaster right to happen. You drive a mile, it squeaks, you stop, you look at it,
You get low oil pressure, you stop, you look at it.
You look at it,
yeah. At some point, it's just you stop. Yep, engine's still, check engine. Yep, it's still there. There it is.
I think that the best part about that whole trip is the last time you shut the power off when it's sitting in the booth.
That's true.
No, but I like how you roll in, it's just like fresh outdoor skin on it. What I remember last year, walking up to it and stuff, and thought like social media wise, it did really good, man. There's a lot of different people going out there and taking pictures with it and stuff like that. It's a very unique vehicle.
It was actually voted top 5 import at SEMA 2 or 3 years in a row. So it was a great project for exposure. I don't know, everything total last year was one. We had the MEV reports. I don't remember the numbers off my head, but it was up around 22 million views and impressions.
Oh wow!
I could see that.
You've said one of Joe's trigger words: exposure.
Yeah, in this case, it was just like like Gravedigger. You had just different markets, different people there. I was like, man, it's so interesting. But this vehicle to pull so many people in, and especially being like in that performance pavilion and stuff like that. I don't think there was other vehicles like that. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, Joe loves the word exposure. Joe, you want to talk about your
internet monies?
Joe loves the fact that the people who don't measure exposure, they just talk about how much exposure they're going to get you, but it's no measurable metric. There's no sort of measurable thing about it. Oh, I'll just get you all this exposure. Well, where? How? I'm going to get it for you. I'm going to do it.
And then every year we do our media equivalency value reports, and it basically goes down through all your views, your impressions, shares, and it goes through all that. And there you can quantify that into an actual monetary value.
Oh yeah.
Nice. And we do that every year, for guys like Joe and our partners. We have 21 different corporate partners. Some of these guys want to know what they're getting for their money.
Oh yeah.
And and what kind of value they're putting to it. And we started doing that, I think 3 years ago. And we've seen a lot of growth. I mean, we're seeing 15 to 20% growth every year since 2016.
Well, I think that definitely is what puts you a notch above and separate from just like, now you have all your internet influencers, your grammars, your Instagrammers, all these people who are just like, oh, well, I have all these people who follow me, so I'm getting you all this additional exposure and this and that. Well, like, yeah, but I need like more than just like a high follower count. Like, you don't understand that, like, yeah, you have however many millions of followers, but if people aren't actually looking at your stuff, that doesn't do me any good.
Well, and that's where we're at with our social media platforms, and we've had this discussions in meetings before. And I'm a firm believer in organic growth.
Grassroots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, grassroots growth.
Yeah.
I mean, the garage shop page, I mean, we have a little over 8,000 followers on that now, but it's highly engaging. And I appreciate that. And I like to, and it makes us feel good when people engage and comment, and they have their own stories that they share on our page, about the vehicle, they had one like it and stuff like that. And I like to think of the garage shop page as more of a community.
Mm-hmm.
It's really neat.
Yeah.
Roger Flanagan, he's just a great man. He's been a big supporter of ours for a lot of years. He comes and sees us every year at SEMA, and he's really engaging with our page, and it helps other people be engaging. And there's a lot of people on the page, Dan Duncan. I mean, there's just a ton of people, and Pete, and there's a lot of people that are engaging on the page, and that's what I like, that it's a community. It's not just about the garage shop or just about the FJ. It's sharing the stories that his dad had an FJ or 39 Ford truck. And that's what I like about our page.
So Jim said, I need to ask Aaron about vloggers.
Brandon, the vloggers. I mean, that goes back to what you were saying about the Instagrammers and, the walking around and bouncing off trees and falling off cliffs because you're looking at yourself on your phone and all that. We're not promoters. We provide content.
Mm-hmm.
We have a fun shop. We do fun things.
Mm-hmm.
And we do obtainable projects to guys. I like to think that we inspire guys. Anybody could build this truck. There's nothing special about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the greatest truck in the world. It's just we spent 20 years doing it.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. But I those are the people I like to talk to and hear their stories and listen to them, because without their support, I think that rolls over into the brand loyalty, and that's where you guys pick it up. And Joe's heard me before, and I've worked with some other companies. If your stuff doesn't measure up, don't ask me what I think about it, because I will tell you the truth.
That's what Joe told me today. He goes, yeah, one time it was Aaron, and the rep from Brand X Tires asked him, so what do you think of those? And Aaron goes, to be honest, they suck.
I can't wait to get them off.
I can't wait to take them off.
Like, oh shit. It's like when you asked me. God damn.
Yeah, but I think that's our duty to the people that follow us. I feel it's our duty. Hey, yeah, you gotta stand by your word. And if you're using this stuff and beating on it and it lasts, people need to know that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, if it doesn't last or it doesn't measure up, I can't tell the people that follow us that might go buy that. I just like to be honest, and we've had very few instances where stuff didn't measure up. Very few. And
I think some people like kind of what they're like for you guys, man. You guys do like really cool stuff, cool shit, and just not everybody knows about it because you're just not that kind of guy. But I'm like, dude, this is really cool, like unique stuff. And like shows, for example, you're always like, you bring the vehicle out there, but you also work the booths. You're there to people. You're answering questions. Like PRI, I've seen you there where like I'll walk by the booth and I'm like, you know what, I'll walk by later because this guy's like super busy with people and things like that. People just don't understand. Like, just bounce from you, I have this. It's like, yeah, well, are you working shows? Are you working and putting your face out there and letting people communicate? Ask you questions and stuff like that. And you've always done something like that.
I enjoy the shows. Again, it goes back to a lot of our followers, from the Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. They attend these shows like SEMA, and Ed and I are in the booth at SEMA at 7 a.m, and we don't. You've been over at our booth at 8 o'clock at night, and we're still working.
Yeah. Standing.
Yeah, still
no
standing.
chairs, dude.
I don't believe in chairs.
Ooh.
Not the show.
Yep.
Get after it.
See, Colin, I'm not the only one.
Why are you blaming me for wanting
No,
chairs?
no.
You've
we
asked
don't.
for chairs before. Don't act like you're some
No, we
high
we
and
had to
mighty-
we had to evolve. I'm just saying that I'm not the only one. It's like no chairs. Had to evolve.
Joe, I've worked many a shows with you standing on a concrete floor with no carpet because
I know
at least at
exactly.
SEMA you could get like the nice plush thick carpet.
Yeah, Joe does do that at SEMA in
Yeah.
the Atturo booth. That stuff's like 1.5 inches thick. You don't need chairs.
Yeah. Shout out to our booth builder Art.
A2 exhibit.
He A2 exhibits. He hooks us up with the
Oh, he does.
triple thick carpet. You're walking on a cloud when you're in the Atturo booth.
And you're like 6 inches taller than everybody else in your booth when they're in the aisle.
That's why Joe actually gets it, so he can have that competitive edge on everybody when he's in the booth. But no, I've worked many a shows with Joe where we did not have the super plush carpet, and that's not fun. That is
Up it out. You could be a coal miner. That'd be a whole lot worse.
It's true. I could be a lot of things to be a whole lot worse.
Right.
Jim said brand X tires and brand Y shocks.
Yeah.
Yo, that was a miserable. That was almost. Thanks, Jim. I almost forgot about that, Jim.
Oh,
that was the only time Jim ever walked away from me at SEMA when we started having that conversation.
Oh man.
Not right now. I can't right now.
Joe's walked away from some people at SEMA before. I've heard those stories.
Well, yeah, I mean, you always got to keep the coolness, man. It's, just keep the cool. It's like, come on, man.
It was cool. It worked out great. I got to say what I wanted, and we moved on.
Oh, yeah.
Was with racingjack.com. Was that the first time that you had the FJ out there?
That was Jim. Yeah, Jim.
Jim.
Jim was actually the first person I ever talked to about this project. And I talked to him at SEMA in 2015 about it. And he was instrumental, in getting that first year going. And he
just as crazy. That's why, man. He's just
he committed to the booth, and Gear FX, they do all our race car stuff with the drivetrains. They got involved, and through them we met Cora and Eric from Aussie Lockers. So that first year was really a lot of unknowns, but the people that came on board the first year, they were super supportive, and we had a great time with the truck at the show, and it evolved from that,
Except for brand X tires. I hear Atturo's way better than them. So I mean, everybody except them.
But yeah, all the guys on Bro Rally, we had kind of a deal the last week of the trip. Jim Sweener joined us, Eric would join us, and we call it Bro Rally. It's the last week of the trip. They all meet up with us, and we've had just some amazing times. That last week of the trip, just seeing stuff and just being around, your friends and stuff. It was just great.
Yeah.
Jim said that was almost a fight in a SEMA booth.
For social media, man. Social media purposes. Content.
I told Jim that'd have been great exposure.
That's what Aaron talks about when he says we make content.
Yeah, we make content. Didn't say it was going to be good.
Didn't say it was going to be relevant content. I said we'd make content.
Right. So, but that's what we do. I think promoting a product is another level. And we work with so many different companies. I like, Brandon from Trailspin does all our videography work, and he does a phenomenal job at that. But when we provide you, an edited hard drive, you then can do your own promoting. You have the information. And I think it's better coming from the partner than it is us, because it tells people you believed in this program. Mm-hmm. And you put your products to the test, and it worked. So that's kind of the take we have. I mean, we do naturally, we promote stuff because we have partners, but 90% of our partners, we provide them with a good hard drive, and then they get exposure from, our social media platforms. And we've had some good cross promotions with some social media platforms.
You've had some really great ones, man.
Yep. I know at Tens, we've done some cross promotion stuff with those guys, and it's worked out really, really well. So, and that's a really an outside the industry, an outside the automotive industry partner. So for people like that to get involved, and it's very difficult for us to promote it like their vision would be. So us providing them the content and then cross promoting it with them, it ends up being a better package in the end.
That's the key to Joe's heart is a nice big hard drive full of content.
Yeah. well, I think now that I think back, like interviews, man, I think that a lot of the interviews I've done with different people here and there are the ones that I've seen have just like really, shot off and taken off. Like even like with the Overlander guy and stuff like that,
Well, because Aaron's got that NASCAR experience with the post race interview with the towel over the shoulder, the hat. Yeah, we were out there. Big shout out to Atturo Tires, Performance Plus Motor Oils. Really got us through the day today. We were really out there. It was a tough one. Hard fought. We really. I couldn't do it without these awesome partners. Got Powerade, Gatorade out here. We're really out here putting in the work.
We had to bump Brand X tires out of the way on the last turn there. You might want to send a chopper out there.
Yeah, I mean, Joe. That's why it's that NASCAR post race experience.
Right, all that races.
That's one of my favorite YouTube videos. Is the one of the kid at like post graduation, where it's after he graduates and he gives the. Did I show you that one, Joe? Where he gives the NASCAR style graduation.
No.
Then like they come up and they give him like a towel and he's got like the hat on and he's like, yeah, we couldn't have done this without we got Netflix, Hulu, Chegg, Rate My Professors. They all got us through the semester. They really helped us.
This all goes out to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's but yeah, Joe loves some good content. All right, Joe?
Well, I like journaling the process, digital journey of the process. And I think that's something that Aaron, not only do you focus on like doing your own work and like delivering such a good craft, but partnering with other people, communicating with other people, bringing everybody together. And that's hard to do, man. It's hard to do, like focusing your own stuff and kind of like communicating that to everyone else and having everyone else bring that out too. I mean,
Well,
but you always make it do
I
it.
think we've met some people through Atturo that came on board with Expedition SEMA, and you guys have done some work with some some of our partners, RacingJunk.com. I think you did some work with Jim Sweener and stuff like that, and we've all hey, this might work, this might be really good for you, Joe. You ought to look into it, and you've done the same for us, and it really works out well.
And Jim's actually, I like Jim a lot because he also helped us partner up for this last SEMA with the attorney school and a couple other schools with like some of the builds that are doing some Jeeps and stuff like that. So, I mean, that just goes to show like, how everybody helps each other out for the most part, if you like them.
I think the big thing about the partnerships at the corporate level is doing what you say you're going to do, but go above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
I remember now when I'm sorry, when you were on Expedition SEMA throughout the trip, and you would message me or call me, we'd have conversations, when you would stop here and there, and you would say like, is there anything you would like, is there anything anybody would like, is there any kind of content setup you would want? I'm like, wow, man, you should really be focusing on this trip, but no, you're focusing on what does anybody want that I can deliver on, like just like that. And that's hard, man, because even for us when we go to an event, I'm just focused on, we gotta get to Texas, let's get to Texas, less stops, let's just go. And you always, like I said, over deliver, man. Over deliver.
And over the last couple of years, we've also invested a lot of money. We can't have Brandon here, full time as much as I'd love to, but we bring a Brandon to the events, but he's helped us a lot in picking some equipment that we can use at the shop that will provide a better quality images and video and things like that. And we've invested pretty heavily into some of that equipment, and that's paid off. I think I'm much happier with our picture contents, and our hard drives are a lot cleaner and the pictures are more. Last year, Ed Whitty in the mile marker booth, they needed a real high pixel image to do a whole giant poster of the FJ on the wall in the mile marker booth. So we had that on hand, and we were able to ship him I don't know, 10 or 15 inches. I know Michael from Overland Bound, I had talked to him, just, we were trying to pick 10 or 15-inch, images. And we had just done the trip with Michael. And so I got on the phone with Corey, and, Corey had a few really good images, and we had some and shipped them down, and they picked what they wanted, and put the FJ on both sides of their booth, full life size.
Whoa.
In a poster. So that was really, to be able, if we were still doing stuff with a cell phone, you can't do that.
Yeah. Well,
no,
maybe.
no, you still can. Just
Yeah,
with some cell phones today, you can. It's getting close.
Nowadays, yes.
Now the cell phones are finally starting to catch up. I think it's like you said. I don't think a lot of people realize, like, when people ask for a sponsorship, people are like, I want to get sponsored. How do I get sponsored? How do I do this? It's like, well, first of all, step one to get sponsored is promote content and do things as if you were already sponsored, because then I know you're capable of doing what you're saying you're going to do. And when I'm going to deliver you my expectations for a sponsorship, those are bare minimum expectations. I expect above and beyond that. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, I'm just going to get all this free stuff and then snap a few pictures and it's going to be really easy and not take any time. And people don't realize or appreciate behind the scenes the amount of work that we do or that you do to create that content and to curate that and to make sure it's high enough quality for it to be valuable to your partners. Like, yeah, you gave me a bunch of pictures, but you took them on like an iPhone from 2004 and I can't really use these anywhere. So like, yeah, you technically fulfilled like your agreement, but that doesn't do me any good.
Right. And that's where we've tried our growth. We've tried to do that growth with, investing in the equipment. I think, we budget $10,000 to $15,000 a year just to invest in camera equipment, lenses, and things like that. And, the newest GoPros and newer technology. If the new technology comes out, we have about a $10,000 to $15,000 a year budget now that we just don't go out and spend it. But
yeah,
if something really cool comes out that's going to be great for the program and our partners, we go get it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you go back to the word sponsor.
Yeah.
I had this talk with you before, Joe. Remember this?
No.
You know what's coming, don't you?
We
don't have sponsors.
Yep.
We work for a living, and we're partners. We're here. We're providing you. You're paying us to do something that will help your brand and your company move forward. So we're partners. We work together on this, and that's the way I view it. I view that word differentiate it from sponsor to partner. I want to provide the very best that I can and go out of my way to get what you want and what you need for any particular program that you're working on. Whereas, sending stuff to somebody and taking a bunch of pictures of it.
hashtag.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't really love the term sponsor. I think it's much, and people don't understand that even when you're sponsored, there's still a value exchange. Like, you need to understand that, hey, you might be getting tires for free or tires at a discount or tires whatever, but you need to still pay me that value in something else. You're still, there still needs to be an equal value exchange of me giving you tires versus me receiving something. And I think a lot of people don't wrap their heads around the fact that they need to do that.
Yeah. I think it's like the consistent hard work required. Like, yes, you did hard work once. Like, okay, good job. It's awesome. But like the consistent hard work that it requires day in, day out, like that's what someone doesn't see sometimes. And, they just see a couple of posts like, well, it's like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. But the work that went just to get to that, which is why Colin was saying is unless you're doing that kind of stuff now, it's hard, man. I think it gets harder and harder. And that's how it should be.
It's a constant evolution.
Yeah.
It's going to be a constant evolution. And I feel that, you have the Instagrammers and stuff like that, but I feel quality content providers will prevail in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because companies are going to start to realize that in order to run their own marketing programs, they need to have it in-house and not somebody out there doing something weird that might not follow the marketing program that they're currently working.
Controlling your message for sure. Controlling
that's the other
your own
thing.
voice.
If you're gonna, be sponsored, buy Atturo tires, you're going to slap a big Atturo tire sticker on the side of your car, and then you're going to go do dumb crap. Like you're now you got to realize if you're going to be sponsored, you're now representing that company, whether it's at events, whether it's whenever. If you're going to have this big old branding and you're going to say you're sponsored, you're now representing that company. So you better carry yourself as if you're working for that company. And I think people don't realize that. Like,
And that's an everyday job, every
Yeah.
day, every minute of your life, and everything that you say and do could jeopardize those relationships. And I'm not really a corporate kind of guy. But I am who I am.
Aaron, do you own any ties? Did you ever wear a tie?
Well,
but here's the thing: the difference is people understand what they're getting with you, though. They go from the get go that that's not going to be. They're not getting the corporate guy versus somebody who gives me some great sales pitch, and then they go and like change their Instagram name to some absurdity, and they go do stupid crap on the weekends and try to make it look like something you're not.
and I think over the next 5 years, I think you're going to see an evolution away from influencers to more companies grabbing a hold of their marketing programs and dictating to, like they do with us, and planning together what content they want for a marketing program that's a year off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're working on marketing programs right now that won't be released until next year.
Yeah.
We're gathering content. So, and I see that's the way when these real big companies are doing it that way. I think that as that's going to trickle down to smaller companies and guys like you, you're eventually have 10 or 12 guys that are out, off-road guys, overland guys, rock crawlers, the big rotos or truck guys.
Yeah.
And that's going to be their job. And then you guys edit it and plan your strategies in-house.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the way that it's going. And I think people need to, I think the idea of a lot of companies maybe sometimes think, I'm just going to drop a ton of product into the market at all these influencers and just throw a ton of product out there and not really kind of follow through or care what happens with it. And just in pure volume of what I have on the internet's going to be great, or more people are going to be running my stuff than anyone else. So they're just going to go use my stuff because I've just oversaturated the influencer market with my product. And I don't necessarily think that's a good thing because you're not monitoring it. So you don't know what these people are actually saying. Maybe you gave them this stuff and maybe they're not great on their word. Maybe they're talking crap about you. And now it's just, it's backfiring and you have less control, but you're just playing the economies of scale game. And you're not necessarily, a big thing for us is the proper applications. Me and Joe talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
If you're not using your tires in a proper application on your vehicle, that's useless to us. You could have the best content in the world, the best pictures, the best this, the best that, but we can't market that because I don't want to market to people something that's not safe on their vehicle.
Well, and I think the other thing, and this kind of goes back to the NASCAR model, when you look at iconic drivers and partners relationships, Dale Earnhardt and Goodwrench, Darrell Waltrip and Tide, I think what the influencer thing is great for the moment. And if you want to throw a big number up, but can you actually quantify that to legitimate long-term sales?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know, but I know from having partners in this building for over 10 years with Gear FX and CNR and Safety Clean, companies like that brand loyalty, it takes a long time to build. The trends that we're seeing within our business model is Project 39 was a 2-3 year deal. We shelved it for 2 years. Expedition SEMA was a 2-3 year deal. We kind of, you don't want to overdo it. In 3 years, we did a lot of stuff with that truck.
Yeah.
But now when you get it back out in little bits and tastes, it goes over good. Just like when we got Project 39 back out this year for a Top Speed Challenge. We ran it the end of last year to test it for a Top Speed Challenge this year at Arkansas, and we're going to run that truck and we'll put it back in in the showroom, and when somebody needs something special for a marketing program, it's there. It's not worn out.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like a a good example would be Bigfoot,
Yeah.
Bob
Yeah,
Channel.
the racetrack.
And look at the run he had, and Kenny Bernstein and Budweiser, guys like that that build on the very highest level. You know, did you ever see Bigfoot being a Chevrolet? No.
Exactly. It's the you build that synonymous relationship that they
And,
go hand in hand now.
and that takes time, and we're just in the infancy within our business model of building those relationships. You know, we're at 5 and 10 year anniversaries with some of our partners, and that's when you really start to see your returns.
Yeah.
Is when you have that long term investment. And you know, not only did Gear FX do all the gears in the off road trucks, they've done all our land speed stuff.
Oh wow.
You know, so it crosses the boards, and there's a reason we use those guys for our drivetrain products, because they're engineered and they're solid and they work. I mean, I'm not going to spend $80,000 to go to Bonneville and have a transmission fall out of a car. Ain't gonna
Yep.
happen.
Yep.
So we need people that have the same passion in their products as we do and what we do with them.
No, I definitely agree that it's like you said, building that long term relationship. Like if I can get out of pretty much any person on Instagram, or whatever, a month full of a month of solid commitment, but like, is that month of solid commitment really worth what I've paid out to you in tires or whatever? I don't probably not. But if I can get, like you said, that relationship of multiple years and build that kind of connection in people's heads, when they think of the garage shop, they think of Atturo tires, and they think of Atturo tires, they think of the garage, like that sort of brand connection, I think is the level that you want to be at. And I think less and less companies are kind of valuing that brand connection and are focusing more on just and I mean, it's like everything else in today's, it's all about that instant gratification, just that instant, we just want it right now. So we're just going to throw a ton of money and resources at it, and we're going to get that right now. We got a ton of people out there using our stuff, but is that building your brand and building your foundation for success in the future? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how you quantify that, but I believe in long term relationships, and you know, you have relationships that you're right at the top of the ladder, you know, like with Expedition SEMA and stuff like that. But we're Atturo Tires and the Garage Shop are still partners, even though we're doing the land speed racing. Our cars wouldn't get to the racetrack if it didn't have Atturo trailer tires on the tires.
Yeah.
So you know, so that it still crosses over, and we're going to get the off-road stuff back out, and there will never be another, you know, tire on the FJ other than the Atturo. It's been a great relationship.
And I think that's kind of what's funny, when you do like working with someone, like with you and I think almost all of our conversations were always held like when I was at home after hours, you know, or driving home or something like that,
Yeah.
or if it was really early in the morning, like on the way to work, you know. But it was like never during work hours, which is cool. It makes it more fun that way, you know. But it's bad sometimes too, because I would ignore you when I am at work.
Well,
Like, I'll talk to him later.
well, you know, if I bother you during work hours, you're not making money, so then you can't pay me. So I'm gonna call you at night.
After hours. After hours.
Call you at night or early in the morning.
No, we see, we don't make money. The marketing side of the house, that's the expense ledger. That's what our boss says. You know, they're on the expense side of the accounting statement. So I mean, it's true. Our job is to support sales, but from a number standpoint, marketing will always just be where all the money gets sucked out of everything.
It's just an out. It's a funnel out.
It is. It's just where the money goes.
That's where the fun is at.
Yeah, Moses Mata, shout out from Texas. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, like Joe said, Texas was the last place we visited before everything got shut down. Like road trip down to Texas, and then nope, no more after that.
Took out the new trailer. It was awesome.
Took the trailer for a ride.
Yeah, pretty much what it was. It's like, damn.
Yeah, the trailer was fun. And then
No, it was a good trial run, man. Except through Nashville. Remember that when they had that big storm?
I think you called me when you were in Nashville in that storm.
We were coming back up. Yeah, it was like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When we were driving back up, that was rough.
Driving back up. Yeah, it was like, good thing we stopped.
Yeah, when it was like a tornado or something.
Yeah, ripped off buildings.
Yep. Nope. No thanks. I don't want to drive in that. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, hopefully the next one's gonna be Biloxi, man. Biloxi, Mississippi.
Yeah, I do hope that we get to go out to Biloxi and get to see everybody in Mississippi. It's gonna be hot
Beaches are
though.
awesome.
What was that?
Imagine.
Beaches are awesome there.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be hot
And-
though.
Good.
It's all good.
This year
That's
we
good,
got
yeah.
the outside booth. We're not inside. No air conditioning. In the trailer for
Shit.
3 days straight.
Shit.
Gonna be sweating.
I'll be dying, dude.
Joe, I think we got to make some like Atturo tank tops.
I think we have some backpack wave, like super extra long
Some
shirts.
Atturo tank tops. Can we get like Atturo crop tops?
Just
Is that
sleeveless.
is that in the booth? Yeah. Can I sleeveless crop top in the booth? I don't think I'd scare people away. But yeah.
You go
so-
internet famous. Internet famous.
exactly. I'll get exposure, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
But yeah, I really do hope we get to go to Biloxi. I hope we get to do an event. I don't know if we will. I'm very cautiously optimistic about it. I told Joe this today. I still have the full expectation that all of a sudden the local jurisdiction will be like, 2 weeks before. Just kidding. We're not going to do this. We're pulling the plug on this whole thing, which for better or for worse, that may happen. And we'll see. I'm just curious to see what the world looks like outside of just going to the grocery store. So,
well, yeah, I think for us, as far as like, I said we got Scraping the Coast and the June 26th, whatever, and then it'd be like in Houston, Texas for the HPT shootout. That's July 18. If that works out, that'd be pretty cool because we're sponsoring the Burnout Pit and like some other stuff there. And then we got that Jeepers Jamboree event with Edwin, so that'd be cool, man. We'll make it out there maybe, or the Ford Nationals in Carlisle. We'll see how that goes.
Ford Nationals in Carlisle.
I've never been there yet, man. We've been wanting to go, and we got that Ford Ranger that Colin's been taking lead on, man. And it's
then you got Project 39 sitting down here being nice.
See,
we gotta find some AZ850s that we could squeeze on that thing.
Hey, no problem. We'll fire them right on there for you.
Actually, I remember one time, Aaron was like, "Hey, Joe, send me some tires." I'm like, I don't know how they'll hold up, man, because that thing's a beast. It's a beast. I'm like, I kind of care about you, man. You got to drive.
That's limit testing, Joe.
Yeah, right. It's like,
we'll know for sure how those things hold up after Aaron's done with them.
I'll tell you exactly how they hold up.
It's like there was a tire there before. Actually, that would be a good. Yeah, you're right, man. The 39, and that's the end of July, and then after that, we got. It's not till October, early October. Is that the Overland East?
I'm sure some things will crop
Virginia,
up.
right?
I'm sure some stuff.
Yeah, it's a great little town.
Yeah.
If
I'm
you're
sure
gonna
some stuff
do
will
that,
crop
you
up
should,
soon.
Book your Airbnb now because
I was about to ask you that if you Airbnb or hotel, I'm gonna have to look at Airbnbs and stuff out there.
that would just rent a camper.
Ooh.
We'll just
we
camp
have to
in the
go
trailer.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Camp in the field. It's an overland event. Let's overland.
Jim says Carlisle is nice, good venue. Yeah, good venue. And the thing I appreciate about Carlisle is they definitely have their shit together. Yeah. They've been doing events there for literally forever. So like it's not like, it's not like Event X where everyone's running around like a chicken with their head cut off. Like it's very well coordinated and everybody knows what they're doing, and it's a well-oiled machine with how they do things out there. So I can appreciate that because we were there for
the Carlisle Truck Nationals
last year.
Sponsored the Burnout Pit. That was blast, man. It was a freaking blast.
That maybe I should go through the archives, Joe, and we'll release that video because the video from Truck Nationals never made it to
get edited and done.
The content never came out from that. So maybe I should do like a from the archive special of that, like the Burnout Pit stuff, because that was
tires getting shredded.
Remember that lady whose drive shaft fell?
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to bring up. I'm like, oh, he's going to be, because she was roasting them. Everything's great. Everyone's cheering on, and then
she threw it in reverse. Shit. I think she was in low gear and she overshot drive.
And then her boyfriend or someone came out and comes out and grabs her from the floor and just like, whoa. It's like,
that was rough.
That's insta famous right there.
It's like, whoops.
Yep, that wouldn't want that to have been my truck, but I mean, I could not enjoy watching it happen to somebody else's because I mean, it's fun to watch for the entertainment factor.
Right.
But anything else do you want to cover in terms of events or otherwise, Joe, before we start to wrap things up here?
I'd say no. I'm probably headed out to hand it off to Aaron, for some shout outs and see what wants to plug in and stuff.
Yeah, where can everyone find you, Aaron?
What's that?
Where can everybody find you at?
The Garage Shop on Facebook.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you want to go see everything from overlanding to land speed records to general shop shenanigans to pretty much anything, you head over and give Aaron a like over at the Garage Shop on Facebook.
And Instagram's the Garage Shop 200.
Yep, 200.
So on that note, everybody, that concludes episode. What is this? Episode 8. We've made it 8 episodes, and we haven't been kicked off the air. So we're still going strong. Facebook hasn't.
FCC hasn't called.
Yeah. The FCC hasn't told me to get off the air, and more importantly, the boss hasn't told us to get off the air. So that's good. That's the more important one. But that concludes episode 8 of Tire Talk with Atturo Tires. Big thank you to Aaron for joining us and sitting down and telling some of his stories. It was a great time. Be sure to find us at Atturo.com. Submit your vehicles to the gallery at Atturo.com/gallery. Head over to AtturoGear.com to buy all your Atturo gears, stickers, shirts, everything. We have 2 new shirts that I was working on today coming very, very, very soon to the gear store. They're really cool designs. I think you guys are going to like them a lot. We also have hats coming, not quite as soon. I know I've teased these multiple times. They're still coming. It's going to be worth the wait. It's closer. It's a really cool design. You guys are really going to like it. So be sure to grab those. They should be hitting the gear store, I'd hope, in the next month and a half.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Hopefully.
So we're getting samples soon, and then that's going to happen. And be sure to follow us on all our social media at Atturo Tires, literally everywhere. And I think on that note, Joe's got his guy over there.
There he is. There he is.
So on that note, everybody, thank you for tuning in to episode 8. We'll see you all next week.